All right, everybody, welcome back to the Pacific War Channel, where we cover the entire Pacific War from 1937 all the way up to 1945. And I'm joined here today by my guest, it's Dave Holland from Walking the Battlefield, Guadalcanal. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Craig. Thanks again for having me on. So it's a pleasure and honor, and I'm doing well today in freezing Australia, which a lot of people don't realize, and we were discussing beforehand in Canberra.
Yeah.
Seasons are reverse, so it's freezing in August.
Topsy-turvy. Canadian over here is in the biggest heat wave we've seen in a long time, and you're freezing over there in Australia.
Crazy world.
And I think this is pretty much one of the most interesting episodes that'll be done in the Pacific War. I don't think I've seen anybody on YouTube cover all the Medal of Honors, especially for Guadalcanal.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've been doing a lot of research involving the Medal of Honors on Guadalcanal for a long time, and I'm just waiting to put some product out. It took me, as you know, I think we previously discussed, I lived in Guadalcanal for 2 years straight, and then total for 3 years on small trips then and there. And one of my goals was to locate every land Medal of Honor site. It's a bit difficult locating the sea and air ones. There was a number of Medal of Honors earned on Guadalcanal. Though officially there's 22.
Yeah.
And during my course of travels and walking and a lot of research, lots of research, I've located every one of the land Medal of Honor sites. So I thought I would love to share this experience and information that I gathered. Yeah, so this leads us up. We'll cover 3 Medal of Honors in this one.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the U.S. Army. The 3 U.S. Army Medal of Honors. Charles Davis, which was a captain.
Mm-hmm.
And you had Fournier and Hall, which were corporal and a sergeant. They call them technical at the time. So it's Lewis, Hall, and what's Fournier's first name? Sorry, I'm just out of mind blank.
Fournier. William G.
Yeah, William. Yeah, I've just got the information overload right now.
So
Fournier,
incredible
Hall,
how much you can remember. You're outstanding at this.
It's just a history geek. Yeah, but my wife asked me, "Have you done this?" I go, "What?" I don't remember you ever saying that. Selective. So yeah, the U.S. Army has been brought in. The 164th Regiment first arrived on October the 13th. The night of the battleships and bombardment. Welcome to Guadalcanal. So they were the first Army unit, National Guard unit of the Maricao Division to land, and then the rest of the division landed. So when the 1st Marine Division left in December and January, they were replaced by the 25th Infantry Division, which was a pre-war regular unit. They were Hawaii based. I mean, they actually had seen some combat, if you count Pearl Harbor as combat, because they're Schofield Barracks, all these Pearl Harbor movies, From Here to Eternity, all the other movies that showed the U.S. Army. They're generally 25th Infantry Division, they're the guys. In fact, the guy who wrote From Here to Eternity and The Thin Red Line, James Jones, was a pre-war corporal at the time in the 25th Infantry Division. He was in the 27th Regiment of the 25th. So he wrote both of those. From Here to Eternity talks about the pre-war, and The Thin Red Line is the war. And it follows the fictitious Army unit, which in reality is the 25th Infantry. And I'll go a little more in that when I talk about Charles Davis. And I'll mention Davis now. I'll go into Davis first. So 25th Infantry Division, 27th Regiment. So at the time, the U.S. Army under General Patch, Alexander Patch, had taken command over from Vandergrift, and they'd formed the core units at that stage, because he had elements of the 2nd Marine Division there. He had Maricao Division, he had and the 25th Division. So he had 3 divisions. So they formed the Corps, the 14th Corps. And as Major General Patch took command of the 14th Corps. So Mount Austen was a large mountain. You'll see it's on the left flank. So it overlooks Henderson Field and overlooks the whole area. During the campaign, the Marines, that wasn't their main objective. Their main objective was securing Henderson. Mm-hmm. So they knew Japanese were up there, so They just left him alone. So Patch wanted to do a major offensive all the way to the west coast, northwest coast of Guadalcanal to push the Japanese off, since he had a lot of fresh troops. But he knew that Mount Austen would threaten his flank. And also, too, they were getting some Japanese infiltrators coming through and blowing up planes and causing mayhem at Henderson and Fighter 2, which is a newly established fighter field, which is now the golf course, if you ever go to Honiara. So he wanted to get rid of it. So in December, he sent the 132nd, a brand new, recently arrived unit, 132nd of the American Division, go. Thought there was only a couple of companies Japanese, but what they ran into was the place called the Gifu, which is probably the most highly fortified area on Guadalcanal during the whole campaign, because the Japanese at that stage had dug in there and said, let's just wait for reinforcements. And I've got some episodes on the Gifu alone. That was a heavy fight, lasted over a month. But anyway, when the 25th arrived, the only way the Gifu was getting resupplied was across the Machingun on those slopes. Because where the Gifu is like a horseshoe shaped, and it's a whole cliff that goes straight down to the river. The Japanese are getting their reinforcements supply up through them cliffs and up through some tracks. So they wanted to reduce the Gifu, and the Gifu was an area that the Japanese had named due to the area where a lot of these troops had came from in Japan. But that stronghold, they wanted to reduce it. Before they could reduce it, they had to cut off the Japanese flank. So this freshly landed unit of the 25th Division, their first task of the 27th Regiment was to take a place called the Galloping Horse, a series of hills and ridges. They call it the Galloping Horse, and even to this day, if you go on Google, but if you take a map and you flip it upside down, it looks like a horse is galloping. And then beside it, there's a series of hills called the Seahorse, and it looks like a seahorse. We'll talk about the Seahorse with these other two in a minute. So the 27th Regiment was given a task of reducing those Japanese, because the Japanese had a series of fortifications on some hills there, the hill 53, 52, 51. So they started out on the 10th of January on a major assault. So if you look at my video, the Charles Davis Medal of Honor, and that's probably the most perfectly reserved battlefield on Guadalcanal, because just it's hard to get to. It really kicks your ass to get up there too, and it kicked these guys' butts too when they got up there. So the 3rd Battalion of the 27th made their attacks over 2 days, and due to a number of factors, one of the biggest factors is lack of water. They only took 1 canteen of water, and they got up on the slopes. They couldn't get resupplied. And it's a good study on how water will decimate it or will stop an attack or lack of water. So they got up there, and they got held down and right before the last ridge. So Charles Davis was an executive officer of the 2nd Battalion, or what, staff officer, not executive officer, excuse me. He was a staff officer of the 2nd Battalion. So the 3rd Battalion had done this attack. So they couldn't attack anymore. And on the 12th of January, they brought up the 2nd Battalion to relieve them, to push through. So Davis and the rest of them, so they moved up on the 12th. They got hit by machine gun fire, and the Japanese had a reverse slope position there. And if you go there to this day, you can see it. I explained it to you in my video. They couldn't reverse slope is obviously where they put the defenses on the back of a hill, so to speak, and you can't engage it directly. If you're on another hill, you can't shoot them directly because they're on the backside of the hill. Right. And when you get up to the hill, you're silhouetting yourself, and then they'll engage you at point blank range. So it's a good defense. I mean, you do limit your vision, but you can't put supporting fire on it. So that's what Japanese had there. And they had it fixed where they could fire to place. There was a gap there when they're trying to move the infantry through. They could hit them, and the army couldn't engage them directly. So there's a coral edge there. You can see it quite clearly. Davis, Lieutenant Sims, and a couple other army guys made a recon. They crawled on the bellies to try to find where this bunker complex was on reverse slope, so they can maybe get some mortar firing on them.
Yeah, okay.
So they get there. They look over and they could see it, and Sims is looking over to try to find it. He gets shot and killed. And to this day, it's called Sims Ridge, named after that lieutenant. So Davis is pinned down, and he start calling mortar fire because he had radio, and he start calling mortar fire, right, and suppresses the bunker enough that when nighttime comes, he can move out. He infiltrated out. Then he gave his report. So battalion commander the next day come up with a plan of attack. You'll see it clearly on that nice drone shot I've sent you. It's a great drone shot. I had a friend who made a drone shot of it. So the Army had moved slightly up Sims Ridge and had one company there. So they told Davis and 4 other men what they were going to do. They were going to come up on the west side, right, with a whistle and then hand grenades and stuff. And they were going to get within sight of those bunker complex. They were going to start throwing hand grenades, throw smoke, and try to distract that bunker. In the meantime, the battalion commander with another company was on that ledge, Carl Ledge. And as soon as he started blowing the whistle, Davis blew the whistle, the commander was company commander, the battalion commander, the rest of the company is going to attack over and try to take out that bunker. So Davis and his 4 men crawled up, and it's quite amazing, this area. You can still see the 2 bunker complexes. They got within 10 yards of it. The first time I went there was very amazing. I've never had an experience like this before. I mean, it wasn't a spiritual experience, anything like that. I mean, but I'm laying there, and they just the area had been burned. Sometimes the locals burn the areas, put gardens in and things. It's great when they burn it. You can still see relics and foxholes on top of the ground. And I'm reading the accounts, and I did everything. I said, oh, he was in 10 yards. I worked out 10 yards. You can still see the holes where the log bunkers were. They're no longer there, but the depressions in the ground. Mm-hmm. So I worked out 10 yards. And I worked out, okay, if I was going to crawl here, what cover would I use? And me and my friend was there. This is the way we'd go. And I'm laying there. I said, this is about 10 yards. I said, okay, it's this position where Davis and his men started throwing the hand grenades. And I'm looking down to my right, and there's pull pins from hand grenade laying on the ground. Incredible. In this area, Guadalcanal became a major logistical and training base after the campaign. This area, what isn't on any of the training, is so far away. No other fighting was done there after this day. No training had ever been done there. So I thought in my head, I can't prove 100%, but those are probably him and his guys' pull pins. Something tells me that there today. I don't know. I mean, there's a war relics accident on Guadalcanal, but something tells me those are not, those pull pins probably didn't, they're not there today. I don't know. Last time I went up there, they wasn't there, so I don't know what happened to them. Just say that. So that was quite amazing. So they threw a number of grenades to distract. Well, I think in the heat of the moment, he's jumped up in his men, and they just attacked the bunkers themselves. So Davis attacked the bunker. He had an M1 Garand. He started firing some rounds. He had a stoppage. He put I guess he slung his weapon, or I don't know exactly what he had. Hopefully he didn't throw it to the ground, might have. But he transitioned to his pistol, and he started firing. And him and his 3 guys took out those bunkers. He's still blowing a whistle. And at that stage, the rest of the company jumped up, and the momentum was there, and they attacked up the hill, and they took the ridge. This was all in view of a famous, very later famous Corps commander in Europe, but Lieutenant Joe Collins was a lieutenant general in Europe, but he was the commanding general of the 25th Division. He was only about 300 yards away watching it. He was on Exton's Ridge with the famous coast watcher Martin Clemens. So Martin Clemens, he tells another story too about he gives an account too. At one stage, the major general was calling in mortar fire himself. He was on the radio calling mortar fire. He was right at it, but he's watched it. In fact, the whole division could see it because he was silhouetted up on the skyline when all this occurred, and when Davis earned it. And anyway, the division commander put him in for the medal. Now Davis lived through the war. He later became a battalion commander, I think. Got promoted to major. I think end of war as a colonel, retired as a colonel, but he lived through the war. Now, a side note, when I mentioned James Jones, who wrote The Thin Red Line, It was based on he was in the 2nd Battalion. He was actually wounded on Galloping Horse, a mortar shell. So if you read The Thin Red Line, it's a fictional book, but I think instead of the Galloping Horse, he calls it Galloping Elephant. And, instead of this name, he uses this name, but it's the same thing. And in the movie, there's been 2 movies made, The Thin Red Line. The second one, the most modern one, the actor John Cusack,
Yeah.
His actions in the bunker scenes where him and his other guys taking the bunkers out, he blows a whistle. He's a captain.
Yeah.
Maybe a captain or lieutenant. Anyway, that's loosely based on Charles Davis. So I wouldn't see the whole movie Thin Red Line because it gets, to my opinion, it gets a bit slow. I mean, the fight scenes, the bunker scenes, especially those taking out the bunker scenes, are quite realistic. They filmed parts of the Thin Red Line on Guadalcanal, but those bunker scenes and all that's filmed in Australia. But if you look at my videos and look at that one, the terrain looks spot on with the kunai grass and the ridges, open barren ridges. They did that very well, and how they took out those bunkers. But yeah, if you see that bunker scene, it's based on Charles Davis's actions. So at the same time, Charles Davis was earning his Medal of Honor. The same day, Lewis and Fournier, 2 machine guns. I think it was the M Company, which is a machine gun or heavy company. The 35th Regiment, which is another regiment, the 25th, they were supposed to, once again, all the plan was to cut off the Gifu at Mount Austen. They were moving behind it to take out a place called the Seahorse, which is 2 hills. And it looked like a seahorse. And the 35th was given a task of taking that out. The 27th was given a task of taking the Galloping Horse ridges out. Then once they took both those ridges out, then the other elements of the 35th would reduce the Gifu. The Gifu was cut off, and then they reduce it. They hit artillery fire and they reduce it. But on the way to the Seahorse, then the attack, if you go there to this day, the Machingun branches off, and there's deep ravines, a lot, and it's real thick jungle and terrain. So they were having a hard time trying to move through jungle trails. Japanese had their camps down in Machingun because, once again, they were supporting the guys at the Gifu. They're crossing a stream near the water hole. There's not a lot of much information on Fournier Hall, unfortunately. It's a hard area to get to, but there's not a lot written about these guys. I wish they were more, but I think one of them was quite old. He's in his 40s, because you'll see a lot of and for a regular Army unit, that's quite amazing. Some of the National Guard units, the soldiers are a bit older. I think the average age of a U.S. Army unit was 26, and the average age of a Marine in a Marine unit was 19 during World War II.
Yeah.
There's an old joke about the Sea Beach Construction Battalion that don't make fun of one because it could be a Marine's dad, something like that. They were saying it's quite funny. But they were moving through to make their first attack up the Seahorse. Fournier and Hall were machine gunners, so they were covering the flank of this movement. And the Japanese had done a counterattack down the ravine to hit the company in the flank, a very exposed flank. I don't think the company actually had covered that flank like they should have. Anyway, it was in a very exposed position when they were moving through. So one of the machine gunners was shot and killed. So Fournier Hall took it upon themselves to grab their machine gun, it was a light machine gun, with a tripod. And it was the terrain was so steep that set the machine gun up, they couldn't depress it, elevate it enough to get down to fire. So one of them picked the tripod up and held it and leaned forward, and the other one could manipulate the machine gun, and they fired it basically like that. So they're holding it and firing it together, working as a crew. They fired back and forth, and it stopped that Japanese counterattack cold in its tracks, which if the Japanese would have been able to hit, they would have definitely stopped the Army's attack at that stage, and they would have probably killed and wounded a lot of Army guys in that company, because they would hit them in the rear. And they stayed there firing until they were killed in place. But they stopped the Japanese attack with their lives, basically. And they're both given a posthumously Medal of Honors, or awarded the Medal of Honors. or earned. I don't know how to say awarded and win. So it's they earned a medal by doing that in their actions. I just wish there was more information about these guys because it was quite amazing what they did. But you'll find there's definitely no books. If there is, please someone let me know if there's a book written about them. But I don't know of any. I mean, even in the 25th, I've reached out to the 25th Infantry Division. Really haven't heard much from them association, but it appears to be not much information. I don't know. I'd love to read the witness reports. That was where you probably get a lot of information, but it might be a bit hard to come by. There's not much in their citations other than what they did. Yeah, they basically protected their friends with their lives, which is one of the prerequisites, especially for a Medal of Honor, go above and beyond, generally at the cost of your life. And saying that, there's 22 Medal of Honors earned in Guadalcanal, 6 on the air, 6 at sea, 10 on land, and 9 of them were posthumously.
Posthumous about Guadalcanal.
Yeah. For the land ones.
I actually was wondering, because the way that this will probably come out, this will be a one piece for my podcast immediately, but I'm gonna try and do, like you said, everything that you've given me, make the visuals and cut it up in the episodes. But if you could just tell my audience, just a bit about your channel and why they should check you out.
Oh yeah, I have a YouTube channel called Guadalcanal Walking the Battlefield. Initially, I started up where I'll basically walk these sites, and I had my 2-year deployment there. I wanted to research and drill down on all the stuff I read about Guadalcanal. One, I wanted to check the facts, and plus I wanted to get on areas which is kind of off the grid that most people don't go to, especially if you do the tours there, the week-long tours. They'll go to the main points. And I've made it for them, and also mainly I made it for the people who would never get a chance to go to Guadalcanal, so they can experience something, and also to capture what Guadalcanal looks like when I was filming from 2018 to 2020. Due to COVID and a few other things, I no longer, and due to work, I'm not at Guadalcanal. I'm hoping to go back maybe later this year and definitely next year, and do some more on the ground filming. Now, in the meantime, I've started interviewing other people about Guadalcanal. I mean, next week I'm doing for the anniversary of the Battle of Savo Island, which is a naval aspect, because I cover mainly the land, and the 3-dimensional Guadalcanal campaign is unreal with the air, land, and sea.
Yeah.
I've got a guest, Jeff Ballard. He's appearing to talk about the naval aspects and on the anniversary of the Battle of Savo Island, which is the worst defeat in U.S. naval history.
Yeah, it was.
We'll be discussing that. Oh yeah, and then I also do, a number of other videos. I've done, the Getchy Patrol. I've done Chesty Puller being wounded. I've got one upcoming, the U.S. Army role on Guadalcanal. I've got the 164. So I'm focusing. Excuse me. I'm focusing on, until I can get back on the ground filming. I'm focusing. So, but my videos I cover. It's like I'm giving you a tour when I'm walking there. Mm-hmm. It's like me and you. I'm giving you a one-on-one tour. My videos don't have a lot of whistles and bells, so to speak, to it. I call it pure history. One of my viewers said this is pure history with no frills. I'm like, yeah, okay. Because when I filmed it on an iPhone 7.
Yeah.
I edited it on an iPhone 7, and I uploaded it on Solomon Island internet. So it was just, it's a miracle even it got put up.
Hey, it's fresh from the source.
Oh yeah. I have an adjoining Facebook site. It's called same thing, Guadalcanal Walking a Battlefield on Facebook. And I update that every 2 or 3 days. And I try to include things in there that's never been seen before.
You in relation to
Guadalcanal. Yes, fresh material.
You've found new material about Guadalcanal. In all honesty, if people were to ask who are some of the experts on the actions of Guadalcanal, I think you could be argued to be one of them now.
Yeah, I'm one of the supreme geeks, I guess you could say. There's a club of nerds, Guadalcanal nerds. There's a few of us. So yeah, we bounce stuff amongst ourselves. Peter Flavin's in Australia too. He's like one of the best then and now photoed guys. I don't know how many trips he's made. Yeah, but yeah, that's my 2 channels.
Yeah,
And
it's been
hopefully
a
I'll
real
get some fresh tour stuff there.
it's been a real honor to talk to you again. I stress to my audience, please go check out his stuff. You will not find anything like your channel. Your channel is extremely original. It's one of the most interesting channels when it comes to this kind of history on the Pacific War. I can't think of anybody else who's doing anything like you. And what can I say? I hope everyone checks you out.